welcome to the Improv Summit. You can kind of see it there. Yeah, I'm covering it. You know what it is. It's the Improv Summit. I'm your host as always, Spencer. With me today, I was gonna say I have a very special guest, but I got in trouble for always saying everyone's a very special guest. So today I have with me a glorious guest. We'll go with glorious because it kind of matches. Glorious guest, and who is more glorious on this Improv Summit than Lorna? Lorna, how's it going?
Hi, very well. Thank you for inviting me, Spencer.
Yeah, thanks for doing this. I'm excited to catch up and chat a little bit about improv and stuff.
Oh, yes.
Mostly improv, because
Mostly
it's the
improv, right?
Improv Summit.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's just dive in. People know all about me because I've hosted however many
Mhm.
episodes of this now. Talk to me about your background in improv, like what, whatever that means to you.
Well, I guess the best way I can say it, I was a regular civilian and a corporate drone for
Mm,
a long time. And I wanted to be a leadership trainer in the business world. And so I did a training, about how to be better, on stage, on a training stage. And I saw a video of myself and I thought I was so boring. And that was the feedback that I got. But even I saw it, I'm like, I would not want to learn from that woman. I got to do something about this.
yeah.
So somebody had recommended before, hey, maybe you should try improv. I think you would
Mm.
really like it. And sure enough, went and took my first class, and it was love at first class. And it's been a passion now for over 10 years. And
Wow.
uh, I have to say, my careers. I'm a translator and interpreter. And at the time, I was doing more management, corporate work,
Mm.
very dry management,
Sure.
middle management in America.
Yeah. Those
Sucks
nine
your
to five.
soul. Yeah,
Yeah, don't like it. Can't do it.
yeah, soul sucking. So the but if I'm honest with myself, when I was a little girl, I dreamed of being on stage, right? I dreamed
Mhm.
of musicals and all that. And it was through improv that that spark came back. And I became more curious. I started learning and learning about theater and acting and playwriting and all that. So that was the journey that took me to this. And then for the longest time, the training career went to the side, then it came back and it's but here I am, still enjoying improv.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's awesome. That's great. I think I kind of want to dive into a little bit about what you love about improv, like because there are some people who take an improv class and like maybe it's not for them, and that's like totally fine.
Mhm.
But there are also people like you, people like me, who just like can't get enough improv. So what do you love about improv? What keeps you like yearning for it and keeps you coming back to doing more?
Uh, it's something that keeps me on my toes,
Mm,
and it's always keeping me on my toes, and it is I it is fun. I mean, it can be fun. There are moments when not always, especially if you're as we're learning and going through learning curves, may not be as fun, but the fact that it was so much fun and it was so for me on a personal level, I guess freeing
mm,
to because I was at the time like in this very like I'm a manager, I'm doing these things,
yeah,
and then it comes in improv and it's like, oh, I can be almost anything, just like, oh, I can
yeah,
be a marchand, it can be. And it was always so great. It was, I think, the newness of every moment just kept me coming back, and this that and I'm a curious person that always wants to continue learning. And there's something about improv that it's just I found it fascinating. And it's like, what if I study this? And what if I look at like this? And so, yeah.
yeah. I love that. I think talking about the like continuing to learn and researching, what I found is like I will get in a scene sometimes and someone will be talking about something that I don't know much about. And what I love is that I don't know, and that's okay that I don't know about it. But later I want to go back and like research it so I have information. So then when I'm doing a scene later, I can also play with,
Yeah.
do I want to be the person in this scene that knows everything? Or do I want to still be the person in the scene that doesn't know what's going on in
Right.
that regard of like this information? And so I love that in improv scenes, as we're improvising, people will throw in facts about like stuff that I would never think of knowing about And then I'm like, oh, you know all about octopi. I don't know why I thought of octopi, but octopi. And like that, like now I got to go look up all the sea creatures and all the sea animals and like learn about the sea so I can like be in that scene and like kind of have this whole like bit going back and forth between sea creatures.
Yeah, it's that element of curiosity. Now, if you don't mind, there's a little something that I want to mention, here
Yeah,
about this element of curiosity.
sure.
So I'm originally from Honduras, and all my improv training was here in the US. Now, with the pandemic that the world has opened, and even before, like I became friends with improvisers from Latin America.
Hmm.
And something interesting that I find, like in the US, it's like if you don't know, make it up. And not that in Latin America it's not the case. If you don't know, make it up. But it's like it's not so much make it up, but learn. And it's like you should. And it's like the schools, the teachers, like the high teachers, like you should know a lot about a lot of stuff, and you should know about world affairs, and you should know about these things because you just never know what's gonna come up. And
Hmm.
also I think for me personally, being like you said, like that obsession, like, oh, what's that, I want to know. I mean, I do that with movies, with just like, what was that, now I want to learn all of this.
Yeah.
So but it's also virtue of my profession being a translator and interpreter, because anything can come up at any moment, and you have no idea how sometimes random stuff that I read
Oh yeah.
has been useful in my professional career.
Yeah, which is true. I mean, even then, like on a quick side note of that, like people underestimate. Yeah, underestimate's the word. People underestimate how valuable improv is to non-performance, non-improviser life, like to just like daily life, how
Hmm.
beneficial it can be. And as you said, like as a translator and an interpreter, you have no idea what is going to come out of people's mouths at all. So you have to be able to adapt and be on your toes. Like you said, you have to be ready for
Hmm.
anything. And
Yeah.
improv is great for that.
Hmm. Oh, absolutely. It's like the neurons firing up. Oh man, a pet peeve. Well, just like in the professional interpreting is when people don't finish their thoughts and I'm interpreting, and
Mhm.
it's like, you're killing me. Because I
Yeah.
have to wait to end it neutrally without adding meaning to what you just said. So there is different techniques that you can use. So
Mhm.
there are some little things you say that I pay attention to. So.
Yeah, sure. Which actually leads me into something that I want to talk about because we talked about what you love about improv.
Mhm.
Are there certain things that I want to say? I'm going to use the Family Guy term that what really grinds my gears. Are there things are there things in improv that maybe you don't love as much?
Well, there is a couple of, I would say, I think we do need to talk about the before times, like pre-pandemic, but also
Mm-hmm.
pre-George Floyd and Me Too movement, and
Sure.
after, and also online versus in person. Because I think
Yeah.
those, like, if we want to fine tune and be a little bit, so in terms of, I love about improv how freeing it was, but also how it was, because it was this attitude of anything goes. And I want to say that it used to be like, oh, it's comedy, you should laugh, when it was obviously racist, misogynist, homophobic
Mhm.
stuff. And so I tell you, that's something that just never sat right with me. And until the
Mhm.
Me Too movement, that and everything else, like, okay, these are conversations that needed to happen. So I'm glad that those conversations um are happening. So that was, I tell you, that was one of the things that it's just like and just like in terms of things that make me grind my teeth,
Yeah.
it's always like falling into the old stereotypes without challenging,
Mhm.
ourselves, just, and this as a minority, as a woman, like sometimes we women, falling and playing the same old tropes, and it's like, if we're making it up, we can make it up better.
Mhm. Yeah.
So.
Oh yeah, and it's like the same even with like disability from a standpoint where I'll like watch a lot of improv
Mhm.
and it's like someone's playing a character who's blind and like, fine, like whatever. But it's always like, oh, this person who's blind, oh, they're just bumping into everything because they can't see. It's like what like we know how to navigate. Like it's not like what is this? So I think
Yes.
I think it is like you're saying like there is like this nuance to it in its own way because it's like there's the idea of like even like in certain schools you play with um you play with social commentary and political commentary. You play with gender. You play with all these kind of things, but it's also a learning process of like, okay, if I'm going to do X, Y, and Z, how can I do it in a way that's positive and supportive versus making fun or light of the situation? And
Hmm.
I think that, some places do it really well, but I think it's also the person who's doing it. If you're an
Yes.
improviser and you're like, oh, this is the class on social commentary, I can make fun of everything if I want, maybe that you're not the person to be doing that improv.
Hmm. You know, there is so yesterday I participated in a little virtual roundtable in Spanish
Mm,
organized by an improviser from Brazil who's now in Portugal doing her PhD in theater and kind of taking, and taking improv as part of the
sure.
studies. And one of the things, the point of the roundtable, and that's her thesis, is the role of the improviser as a director, because in
Mm-mm,
improv we say that we are the actor, the playwright, and the director. Most schools, especially here in the US, we focus more on the performing side. There is a
mm-hmm.
couple schools that do take playwriting, but we never talk about that we are directing ourselves in the
Yeah.
scene and directing others. And there is something about, and the people in the panel were absolutely brilliant. And I think they wanted me there, for somebody from an American perspective, studying in
Mm-hmm.
American schools. And one of the other female improviser present, Mariana Palau from Argentina, now in Peru, talk about practice and awareness as we're doing improv. And it's like having having practice and the awareness, of the choices that we're making, to have,
Mm-hmm.
more conscious choices. And I have to tell you, like, the thing, I guess, a pet peeve, and it's not a pet peeve, but something that makes me grind my teeth. It's sometimes being too insular and too focused. Like, this is the right way. Like, this is improv. Like, this is the truth. You know, by different schools or different teachers, and there is many different approaches. And sometimes, if you make a choice, let's say that could be openly misogynistic, racist, but knowing that you're making a conscious choice that you want to make a message, but if you're making that choice that you're going to fail and you're going to lose in the end, because that's what we want to do. Because I've seen improvisers, from South America make that choice, and just knowing, like,
Mm-hmm.
I know, like, I'm playing an unlikable asshole, but I know at the end I'm going to get my ass handed. Oh, Spencer, can we swear? I should have asked you
Yeah,
before.
sure, sure, sure. Yeah, if you want, go for it.
So yeah.
Yeah, great. Yeah, I was gonna say whatever you want. This show's casual. Do whatever you want.
Okay.
I mean, maybe like don't do whatever you want, but
Right. No,
you get
I
my
know what you
drift.
mean.
It's like what I always say in like improv where we talk about like there's no wrong choices. And I think that the people who are meant for improv understand what that is because there are obviously wrong choices as we've talked about.
Yes.
But the people who are good improvisers, who are smart improvisers, who are compassionate improvisers will know that there are things you should not do or say on stage.
Hmm.
And then you have the people who are like, well, but it's supposed to be comedy. I'm supposed to make it this and that. And like, maybe you shouldn't do comedy. Maybe you shouldn't do improv because you want to take the box, which is great to think outside of and inside the box, but you want to take that box and be like, well, I'm also going to go into the territory that no one's going into because that's going to wow people because I'm so over the line. And it's like, no, you're not. Like that's not how it works.
No. Yeah. It's
So
just
yeah, so it's like the improv. There's nothing wrong in improv, but there are things that are wrong in life that you should not do in improv because it's wrong in
right.
improv also.
Right.
That was what I was getting at with the whole
Yes.
comment. I think you know what I meant, but I
I
just
I
explained
I
it.
know what you meant.
I explained it to the audience who have heard me explain it multiple times because that's just how my Capricorn brain works. Is it likes to explain the joke even after everyone gets the joke. Anyway, I just want to jump in real quick and ask if you have any plugs or pitches or promos, the three P's, I guess. Anything you want to share?
uh it's interesting. Like, right now I'm taking a break from teaching and a lot of things, I think that we know it's been a hard year.
Hmm.
And I think sometimes it's good to take a step back and kind of recharge and recalibrate and see what's important for you, what direction you want to go. I do things occasionally with a group from Mexico called GHV Producciones, and they do workshops in Spanish. I can share the that info later. I mean, eventually, I do want to bring back my improv show that I've developed. That's my baby, Overlooked Improv, which is overlooked women in history. And
Mm.
it's like I'm creating, with my cast. It's very much an ensemble piece. Like I'm the director and it's my concept, but it's created with the group of ladies that I work. Because for this piece, I work with female
That
identifying.
sounds that sounds awesome actually. I didn't even know that existed, but I'm excited now. When you said that, my ears perked up. I was really excited to hear about that. Like
Yeah.
now I want to
So
know what it is. I want to
yeah,
watch it.
so look at so it's Overlooked Improv on social media on Facebook and Instagram. So I guess if my cast sees this before I talk to them, but I think I will talk to them before this airs. I think I'm gonna get back the band back together and do it because that's the thing. What I'm trying to get to, Spencer, is the things that I'm gonna do now. It's because I'm passionate about, and it
Yeah.
speaks to me.
Yeah. I've learned if I'm at least like with the pandemic, with everything being online, if I'm gonna do something online, I gotta enjoy what I'm doing because I'm doing everything online right now.
Yeah, and I have to say, like, I think that I'm a year behind. I think there's a lot of people that a year ago were like, I can't do improv, I can't do anything, I gotta
Hmm.
focus on my life. And now it's like, and last year, because everything, shut down, but then everything was by Zoom, like I said, this whole world, international world, opened up to me. And it's
Hmm.
like, oh, this is exciting. So I took all these classes, and but now I think it's a year later. I'm like, I think I need to take a step back and
Yeah.
recalibrate. But, one of the things, I mean, I can't say that I blame people because we do miss the stage. We miss being physically with each other. But one of the things that I have enjoyed that I have seen several shows in South America do is really take a lot more audiovisual approach, playing with angles and planes and all that to make it visually interesting so we're not in this box, just like in this square box. Because even as I'm getting close to you, it's giving you an idea than if I
Hmm.
stand back. So,
Hmm. Yeah, that's great. I think that was one big thing is that we kind of learned a lot of new tricks that we can use in improv via
mhm.
a virtual format. But I do agree that there's nothing about like high-fiving people after the show or like talking about it or being in the space because the energy you feel in a room versus the energy on Zoom is so very different. They're both valid in their own ways, but
Oh, yeah.
it's like film and TV versus theater. Like I grew up in theater and like I love performing for an audience. I also love my film and TV, and it's like if I had to pick, it's kind of hard because they both have their own merits. And like I love the energy of laughter in a room, but I
Mhm,
also love people watching my stuff over and over and
mhm.
over. Like it's there's I love them both.
Yeah, I love them both. But the thing that got me interested in improv on the online platform, the online world, is like, we're creating this hybrid, which, we cannot say it's fully theater in the traditional sense because it's not, but it's not exactly film and TV because we're not in our home setups, we're not set up like full studio or a full thing,
Mhm.
and especially those of us that like to do things in real time. So that's what got me interested, like, ooh, this is becoming its own medium, and it has its own
Mhm.
language, and it has its own, like, we're developing as we go along. And like for me, like I said, being able to collaborate people overseas that maybe I would see in a festival once a
Ah,
weekend, and then off we go.
oh yeah, it's incredible the people you meet online. Like I have so many new like friends on Facebook, which I mean that's it's one way to calibrate it, but it's like I've never met these people in real life, and it's also interesting where I've worked on multiple projects with different people, and they're like, one day let's like grab drinks, and I'm like, yes, like I don't, how have we not met in person? Because it feels like I know people,
Right.
and that's what I love about having that opportunity to
Hmm.
do online, and so I think that that's what's great. And like one day I think I'm already planning like because I have people around the world that are doing some of the stuff that
Hmm.
I'm working on. I'm like, okay, when we go back in person, how can I have it where it's like they're skyping in as like the great as like the silly uncle that's coming in or whatever, but like it's a hybrid mix of live from location and live from not location and making it into a hybrid show.
That, I mean, I would say that's happening and there's no stopping
Mhm.
it. And, you know, and I was um, actually precisely in the roundtable yesterday, we talked about a show in Madrid a couple of years ago where they were in person, but then they had cameras where they would do a confessional,
Mhm.
and just like they are this mixed media format and another camera where you could see what they were writing. So I think we know the technologies here.
Yeah.
So this is this is here to stay. And even for me in my career as interpreter, everything is by Zoom. But I just see it like, oh boy, here we're about to go into a mixed world before goes. And we know that the beginning, it's going to be bumpy, but we'll figure it out.
Mhm. It's true. It's true. So I want to dive into like my final question,
Hmm.
which is a little bit heady, I've realized, because it's the reason why I created the Improv Summit in the
Hmm.
first place. And I'm not in my usual location, which is why I can't figure out how to show the word. But you get the idea. Everyone knows what it
Yes.
is. Um, but a lot of people came up to me before pandemic, but even now with improv, like we've discussed, being accessible all around the world, no matter where you are, if you have a computer, which is another whole accessibility thing
Yeah.
that can be discussed at a later date.
Yeah.
But people are like, Spencer, you do a lot of improv. You've graduated from everywhere. Where should I take improv? And I'm like, I don't know what to tell you because there's a lot to that question. It's a very loaded question. It's like a baked potato. People think it's just a baked potato, like that's all it
Hmm.
is. But how many types of baked potatoes can you make out of a potato? A lot. No baked potato is the same. I don't know how I got that analogy, but no baked. It's like no
Hmm.
potato is the same. There's baked potatoes. There's fried potatoes. There's French fries. There's other ones.
And
Anyway,
then you talk about varieties of potatoes, and there's
yeah,
a lot.
yeah, yeah. The Spuds, the Idahos, the red ones, the other ones. There's a lot. Anyway, here on the Improv Summit Potato Edition, um, the question I have for you is: if someone came up to you and said, "Lorna, where should I take improv? You take a lot of improv. Where should I take improv?" What's like one piece of advice or one tidbit you'd give to someone to help guide them on their improv journey?
You know, one of the first things I would be is like ask, turn around the question, why do you want to study improv? What is it that you want to get out of this? Because I think that can inform what the answer, because if it's somebody that wants improv for performing and they want a career, then that could narrow down the choices. But it's somebody that wants to do it for fun, then could take them on a different direction. And one of the things, so based on that, I would point them in different directions because there's so many different ways. And also, I mean, I would want to know more a little bit about the other person. What do you want to get out of it? Why do you so? And one thing I think it's important for all of us is like, what's important to you? Like, what type of people
Hmm.
do you want to surround yourself with? You know, just like as you're learning. As we know, the first improv classes is love at first class, no matter who you are and where you are. But I think that there are some things that can be taken into account in that choice. And whether it's for performing, and just like with everything, like everybody always is having like free trials and free stuff, so it's like go test it out, you know, go take a free class, ask a
Hmm.
lot of questions, and how do you feel that you're being treated, just like as you're choosing to go to school, because it's at the end of the day, it's got to be where you feel, you know, comfortable. Because I've seen people that have been recommended to go, like back in the days, to UCB and just wanted to take it for fun, and UCB level 1, it's very intimidating for non-performers and people that don't know anything about improv. So I
Hmm.
wouldn't have directed that lady, you know, we just happened to be classmates, I would have said, you know, go somewhere else.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I would want to know more into the what and why. And if somebody wants a performing career, just like, all right, that narrows down the choices. But you know, but even so, still like, what are your values? What's important for you? It's like, let's say diversity, inclusion, and equality. Okay,
Hmm.
you do want to check the record on that, you know, if that's really important to you. So I think I always turn it around with questions and wanting to find out more.
Yeah, that's great. And I think what's also interesting is as someone who's been doing a lot of improv, I have to be thrifty with my budget because I don't have like, four or five
Hmm.
hundred dollars class. And so I've learned that there are places that are like, hey, we're donation based, or hey, we offer free classes, but if you can give back, please help us out with 10 or 20 bucks or whatever. And I would say even on top of, like all these questions that I think are really great
Hmm.
questions to ask of like, why do you want to take improv? If you're like, I want to take improv, but I can't afford it, find places that have
Exactly.
scholarships or that are offering free classes. Like you said, places all over have different styles of classes that they're offering for free as samples. Go take all of them, get all the free classes, and then see which ones maybe you're like, I want to try and maybe buy a class here, or like, I want to see what opportunities there are for work or scholarships or ways that I can access the classes without the funds.
Hmm.
Because again, if we're talking about DEI and accessibility, one big thing is also budget for people. Some people just can't
Yes.
afford classes, and I think that's something that also needs to be considered. So I think that that's something for people who have. I will say the amount of classes that I've taken in improv, I think I maybe paid for like one or two classes because the way the programs were set up, those specific programs, you had to take a class in
Hmm.
order to get a scholarship or do work study or whatever. So I had to find a way to pay for those classes, but I've paid, I mean, I've been lucky that I've been able to go through scholarships or work study or just be like, I can't afford it. And there are teachers who are like, if it's not like if it's like an independent thing, some are like, don't worry about it. Like, pay me when you can, or like, don't worry about it, or whatever. And so that's, I think, something that's also to be
Yeah.
considered.
And also the other thing, now that you mentioned this, you made me think of something more than the school. There is some teachers that we love. And with everything the way that's changed, some of them are going solo and teaching their own classes. So also kind of sometimes gauging on the personality or what they're like. Oh, you may want to try this teacher, because usually the teacher led, that it's their own, they tend to be a lot more affordable
And
and
flexible.
a lot more flexible. Like they will
Yeah.
work with you, or like you said, find free choices, or sometimes the rec centers, community colleges offer classes too, that it's low cost and it's an easier intro.
Hmm. Yeah, I agree. Sorry, I'm house sitting and a dog just like jumped on me. So it like
Oh,
that's why I like jumped. Because he wants to be pet, don't you?
well, he
Anyway, uh, Lorna, thanks so much for joining me here on the Improv Summit. I did say that was the last question I had for you, but as people who watch this show know, I'm like Pinocchio and I can never tell the truth all the time. So I'm a big liar, and I
Mhm.
actually have one more question for you. And that question is, we've been talking a lot about improv. You want to do some improv?
Of course, Spencer.
All right, let's do it.
Let's do it.
Stephanie. Oh, a little bear.
Hi, Tom. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you? How are you?
Well, just here, just chilling, contemplating life.
Yeah, you always
Just,
do that.
yeah, man, like I'm telling you, like if the beach doesn't, if you don't go to the beach, you bring the beach to you.
Mm. You're very philosophical. That's all I have to say.
Well, it's, we gotta remember how we met in philosophy class? We gotta ponder the important things in life, what matters.
Yeah, what the meaning of life is, and or why John Paul Sartre is really one of the biggest philosophers you could come across.
Yes.
I think
Oh,
that's how you say
and
his name. I didn't really pay attention in that portion because I wasn't really a big fan of him. But what can you do?
I know, but it's like, but remember how we did, all the thought experiments, and how we broke apart the trolley experiment,
Yes.
and
Yeah, it was fun. So fun.
yeah, no, it's, I mean, I gotta tell you, you blew my mind. It's like you don't give yourself enough credit.
Oh, you're very kind. I really appreciate that. But you were the one who had the idea behind it all. Like you were the one that really allowed me to really take charge of the whole thing.
Aw, stop. You're gonna make me blush.
I'm already blushing. Oh, shucks. Oh, yeah,
Why
I
did
mean,
it?
what? Go ahead.
Why? Why we were never a thing?
That's a very good question. I don't know. I, I guess I just never thought about it.
Oh, yeah. Well, I thought that you were more into, the cheerleaders. Man, those girls can do backflips and all that sorts of stuff that
Oh,
I
they
can't.
sure can. Yeah, I wish I was even half as agile as they were. I mean,
Yeah.
honestly, I
Yeah.
think I was just busy. I think I just never really thought about it. I just was trying to get through school and make sure that I graduated with honors and got a nice job that I never really thought about the personal aspect of college.
Yeah. And boy, you know what?
What?
You've been patient with me with all my crazy psych tests that I do
Very patient, one might say.
on you.
Yeah, sure.
And so did it have to be, with a little bear to finally admit that I had feelings for you?
It appears that way. I mean, I guess the feeling is mutual. I just never really thought about
I think that's our problem. We think too
it.
much. We spend too much on
Way too much.
thought
Yeah,
psych
we spent
experiments.
way too much on thought in general. Like, what are we gonna do with a philosophy degree?
How about I buy a plane ticket to go visit you? How about that?
Hey, that sounds great. I love it. And then the next time I'll visit you.
It's a deal. So let me get, you know what? I'm going to go. No, I was going to say I'm going to go research to get a ticket. No, I'm not going to research to get a ticket. I'm going to buy that ticket and I'm going. So I'm planning on arriving tomorrow. So you better be ready, mister.
Whoa, springing a surprise on me. I'll think
Well,
about it. I'll think about it. Ah, just kidding. Gotcha. It's just a little philosophy humor.
you're going to pay for
Hey,
that philosophy humor.
thanks, Lorna, so much for joining me here on the Improv Summit. That's Lorna. I'm Spencer. See you next time.
See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.